Well, good evening, everyone. This is our second ASD Town Hall, December 9th, 2020. And this is our time to collect community feedback on the draft school board goals and guardrails. But before we get started, I want to just a little housekeeping. And you'll see these screens that are popping up in front of you. So to ask questions or provide feedback during the meeting, you can either use the raise hand feature, or you can be called, you can put it in the chat and we'll try to answer your question in the chat. If we don't get to it, then we'll make sure that you get an answer within the next couple of days. As you can see, we also have our Spanish interpreters here. And so there is instructions here in Spanish for anyone that's attending, and follow those directions so that you can hear this presentation in Spanish. And just a reminder for everyone, we do have to speak a little, just take some pauses and some breaths in between your sentences to give our interpreters time to interpret what's being said. That would be very helpful. So what I'd like to do first is we have a video that a couple of our board members put together to kind of talk a little bit about this, exactly putting these boards and guardrails together. And so what I'd like to do, it's not very long, it's a couple of minutes. I'd like to show the video as a way of introduction, and then we'll get started. So Katie, if you wouldn't mind starting that.
Destination 2020 is ending this year, so that was a long community broad-based goal for public education. Now those are expiring, so it's time to set our next direction for the school district.
The way that we're formulating it this time around, the goals are things that are measurable, and the guardrails they represent the community values that we want to achieve those goals within the constraints of those community values.
So one of the things I really love about what our board has done with these proposed goals and guardrails is focus on what students know are able to do, really honing in on what kids are learning and focusing our goals directly on that. Reading, math, and life and career ready. So those are the things you're going to see reflected in our goals.
So like any strategic plan of any large organization, you want to have the community support and the buy-in that says, we agree with these. This is what we want for our kids and for our future generation.
So part of looking to see if our goals and guardrails are equitable for students is first just being part of that review process and giving your voice to it. What do you see? Do you think we missed something? Another part of that is going to come in the monitoring, right? We set these broad goals, but when we see if we're effectively reaching all of our students, every month, every meeting, you should see the school board talking about how is this impacting all of our students.
The biggest challenge that we have as a district with all of the diversity is making sure that we are able to reach and hear from the broadest, parents and family members and community members of our district.
Equity, again, is really going back to what does each student need, what are their family's hopes and dreams, and understanding that. It would be presumptuous of us to make those assumptions for our different families. It's really important to have that connection and that partnership between the family and the school.
But we know that there are a lot of unheard voices out there that have a lot of very strong, passionate, opinions and great ideas, and we want to hear from them. And so it is going to be a big challenge, but we do want to hear from as many people as possible, everyone, if possible.
Thank you, Katie. What I'd like to do now is just move forward. We are in the process of our timeline where we have last fall solicited feedback from community, from parents, from teachers. We went to 4 different locations. We created these little groups that actually we just kind of gave them a guideline, and they provided us with the input or what their thoughts or what their dreams, their desires, their values, what was important for our children and their education, what were their priorities for the next, and normally it would be 5 years, but because of the pandemic, we have actually extended this to 6 years. So you'll see our draft board goals and guardrails for 2020 to 2026. And what we heard from our community and where we are in this process now is we've drafted these based on the input we got. And now we want to put these back out to the community and get your feedback. It's so important to make sure that we've heard everyone and that everyone's on board and that we can move forward actually with the values of the community. So our board goals, and these are in no particular order, they're just 3 goals. One is reading proficiency, and that's beginning September 2020. The percentage of 3rd grade students proficient in reading on the state summative test currently peaks will increase from 40 to 80% by May 2026. That seems really aggressive, but that's exactly what we need. And, you know, the old saying goes, you can't turn a ship on a dime. It will take time, but we're going to see as a board, we've made this commitment. And as a district, we've made this commitment. So we are committed to getting our proficiency up to that 80%. Math proficiency beginning September 2020, the percentage of students in grades 3 through 9 proficient in mathematics on the state summative assessment currently peaks will increase from 40% to 50%, 55% by May 2026. And again, this is the feedback that we heard from our community, that reading really was the focus. And not that math is any less important, but this reflects the values of our community. The 3rd goal is life, college, and career ready. And this is beginning with the freshman class in September 2020. The percentage of high school students life ready and college or career ready will increase from, and again, these are percentages that as we give these goals and guardrails to the superintendent, once we have passed them at our next board meeting based on the feedback from our community, the superintendent and her staff will come back to us with a strategic plan, objectives, as you will, and numbers that we will fill in here to be able to achieve these goals. And guardrails, again, are based, when we talk about guardrails, and if you wanted to, I don't know, Katie, if we can go to that next slide that talks about underneath the life, college and career ready. And basically, those are some of the interim goals. When we talk about life ready, it means students leave high school with the grit and perseverance to tackle and achieve their goals by demonstrating personal actualization skills of self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, social management, and students are better prepared to be life ready if they meet the following indicators. And I will, you can go to our website and look at those. I just kind of wanted to talk a little bit about what life ready meant. And we talk about college ready. It's if they meet the academic GPA or standardized testing benchmarks as we have listed below, which you can follow up and read, with one or more of the academic indicators. Career ready are students career ready if they meet the career indicators listed below. And so that's a completion of a career interest inventory, successful attainment or completion of 2 or more career indicators. You know, there's a list there that you can take a look at, but I just wanted you to have a better idea of what we're talking about when we talk about life ready, college ready, and career ready. And you can see some of these interim goals below there. And those are numbers that Dr. Bishop and her team will fill in when they come back to us with a strategic plan on how we're going to accomplish these goals along with the guidance of the guardrails. So Katie, if we can move on to guardrails. And guardrails, it's a little different because guardrails, you think of, thou shall not. So it's kind of a negative, but in a positive way. So a guardrail is actually an operational action or class of actions, usually strategic, not tactical. This is superintendent may not use or allow in pursuit of the district's student outcome goals. Guardrails are based on the community's values and are aligned with the vision and goals. So that's just a quick definition of guardrails. And our draft guardrails are as follows. Superintendent will not leave student groups unrepresented in lottery application-based programs. Superintendent will not operate without a diverse or culturally responsive workforce. Superintendent will not allow unsatisfactory employee performance to go unidentified or unaddressed. Superintendent will not operate elementary schools without mental health services. So tonight you have the opportunity to either raise your hand and ask questions. The one thing I did want to point out is even though we have these board guardrails and goals, it doesn't detract from our original mission, and that's the success of all students. We are still focused on that, but this is our priorities. This is where we're going to put our resources, our budget to make sure that we obtain these. And we'll be measuring those outputs of what our students are learning and what they can do. There's also, you see this little Q&R code down here. That is something you can scan. It will take you to a comment form that you can actually provide comments on the board goals and guardrails. Or if you're here tonight, which we hope you are able to raise your hand to ask questions in the participant page, or you can type your question into the chat box. Anyone that raises their hand, I'll recognize them, and I may ask board members or others to help in answering of questions. So let's see what we have here. And right now, I don't see any hands raised. Do we have anything in the, and actually it's Q&A, I apologize, not chat. And I'm not seeing any open questions at the moment. So please feel free to type those questions in the Q&A or to just raise your hand by going down at the bottom of the page, the participants page, and just clicking on that, and the raise hand down at the bottom of the participants list will pop that hand right up there, and I can address any questions that you have. I think it's important to note that while we were developing these guardrails, we certainly heard a lot of conversation about equity and opening programs to all our students. So you do see that in our guardrail, and talking about, how do we get more individuals in our school district to increase our diversity in our teaching staff and administration. So you also see that in our board guardrails. And I guess I would ask at this time, Dr. Bishop, would you like to add anything? And then I'll ask board members if they'd like to add anything.
No, thank you. Actually, yes, thank you. I would just share one of your last comments, that certainly the goals and guardrails are basically, our focus as we move to where we've identified places of improvement. But it really, a lot of the questions that we've received before were like, well, what about this? And what about music? And what about sciences? And we continue to have a board policy in relation to graduation requirements. We continue to have comprehensive programs. The state also calls for statutory requirements for graduation. So we will continue to build capacity throughout our pre-K-12 for all of those things. These are just what we're going to keep our eye on, because we know, if you bring it into focus, that we can really make a difference. And so just sharing some of the questions and thoughts from the community since last time, I wanted to share that and just reiterate what you had shared as well. Thank you.
Great, thank
Member
you.
Merced.
Ms. Vacalis, President Vacalis, would you like to add anything?
Hi, thank you. I think there were probably a couple of things that I just wanted to touch on for community members that are listening in tonight. Board members have had an opportunity to get feedback and questions over this last probably 2 or 3 weeks. So I just wanted to maybe touch on a couple of the big ones that I've heard, as possible questions or concern. The first one is, why was our reading set to go from 40 to 80%, but our math to go from 40 to 55%? That is, speaking for myself, not an indicator that the board has less of a desire to, promote math or anything like that. But we talked about it a lot in a work session. It's hard to make a massive push on both. And so we chose to go with the reading first because we have had the new curriculum in place for a couple of years now, where we have a new math curriculum that is rolling in. And there's always going to be some, little bumps and challenges and little kinks to work out as those kind of things roll out. So we're really wanting to put our push behind reading. But again, not to say that math isn't important, because it very much is. But that was one of the questions I heard several times out in the community. And the other one was, we had Destination 2020. And yes, while it's appropriate to move forward with a new set of goals, what happens to the old ones? And I think where, having been on the board for, both of them, and as we transition, my sincere hope after Destination 2020 is that it's become a culture of attendance to come to school and to feel safe at school, and that our graduation rate is still, we want it to be, extremely high, 90% or better. And so while it's not a stated goal, we hope that it's embedded into our culture is still one of the, many things that are still incredibly important to us. But with our new strategic plan that we're putting forward, this helps us kind of zero in on, some of those key things that, we've talked about as goals and guardrails. And so those are just some of my thoughts that I wanted to take an opportunity and add while I had the opportunity. And I do see a couple of hands up in your queue there.
Yeah. So I apologize, Corey, I did miss you. If you have a question, would you please go ahead?
Thank you, Board Member Marcet. I just want to say I appreciate Dr. Bishop's remarks, and I appreciate the President's remarks. And I do want to share my concern that there are times when such targets take on a life of their own, and teachers will be working really hard to meet, all staff will be working really hard to meet those targets, I'm sure. And I have experienced when we have such high targets, the choices to move away from the sciences and social studies to focus on the reading and math. And I do agree that they are vital. You can't do the sciences, you can't do the social studies without the reading and the math, but to take them out of context sometimes. And I do have a concern about that. And if it's too late to add a guardrail, I know that you guys are at the end of this process and not the beginning. So, and I do appreciate that I'm coming at the end of the process with this concern. I do hope that there will be something put in place to protect young elementary students, and that they don't miss those opportunities, because they are engaging, they're meaningful, they're purposeful, and they promote success and interest in their schooling. So I just want to share that. I appreciate what you all are doing in with these objectives and guardrails, but I do feel like there's something missing specifically for those students in which you are setting those targets for. So thank you, and I'll leave it at that.
Thank you, Corey. And I will say that on the 15th, this is an action item. We'll be voting to move these forward. Board members at any time can, the thing with adding a guardrail is our direction was to keep our guardrails at a minimum. And therefore, as a board, we have decided that to add a guardrail, we'd have to delete a guardrail. And so we'll definitely be looking at that. But, you know, just a reminder that we are looking at the whole child. I mean, even though our focus is reading, math, and life skills, that doesn't mean that we move away from the focus of science, reading, and those type of things. So thank you so much for your comments. Just some good news here. I hope I can say this. Dr. Bishop could, but I'm kind of excited. We just got our 5-year grad rate and it came in at 88.5. Woo! That's amazing. That is amazing. That's a lot of hard work with a lot of partners, 90 by 20, United Way, all of those individuals that have helped us to get to this goal. So I see that Gloria Jenkins Davenport, you have your hand up. Would you like to ask a question? Gloria,
Yes.
there you go.
Hi.
Hi.
I know you guys are talking about moving forward with the school year. My son, he's in middle school. I just want to say this for the record. My son's in middle school. He was an honor student ever since his mutual learning. He's now failing. He's a D and C student. And he just don't want to engage or nothing like that. And in the class, you know, there has been help offered to him. He won't do it. I'm worried about this kid.
Yeah. Well, and I certainly understand your concerns. We're seeing that with a lot of middle school students. We really wanted to focus on our goals and guardrails, but I don't know, Dr. Bishop, do you want to just comment on that?
You know, I think the best bet is if we can follow through to see what we can do. This time out of school is tragic, and not for lack, like was said. People are reaching out and caring, but being away is struggling. So we're working. We'll get that information to the school, and we are scheduling students for in-person. Starting back in January specifically. So we'll work on that, and we have your name and we'll follow up. Thank you.
And that does include middle school, right?
Yes. At the elementary school, we're doing, large scale by grade level, but at the middle and high, we really want to invite in and schedule kids to have in-person schooling, and Dr. Stock can share that. But we'll follow up with you and follow up with the school so that we can get you scheduled.
Okay, thank you. Because we're really looking into another homeschool program.
Mm-hmm.
But
we'll make sure someone, Gloria, we'll make sure someone reaches out to you, okay?
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
And thank you for sharing that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, yes. And just a reminder, we know there's a lot going on. We have a plan that we'll be talking about at our December 15th board meeting. And we will be talking about going back to school and what that looks like. So I'm hoping this evening that we can focus more on our board goals and guardrails and get that feedback that we need to be able to move forward. Do we have, okay, I don't see any questions in Q&A. I don't believe I see any hands raised at this time. Ms. Bellamy, do you have any comments you'd like to make?
Our people and network will help do
Thank you, Madam Chair. Really, I don't know that I have any thing to add. I just want to make sure that the community understands that these goals are foci. They're not going to replace or diminish any of the things that we know are good for kids. So, but this is where we will be for the next 5 years, where we will be putting our resources and our making sure that we are preparing kids. I mean, the reading goal, I think everybody agrees with all our goals. But I don't want people thinking we're not going to be concerned about graduation and we're not going to be concerned about social emotional learning. All of those things that you have come to love, including band and the arts, they will all continue. But as foundational skills that lead to success, these 3 goals, if we can meet our mark on these over the next 5 years, it will change the trajectory of success for our students. That's all of our students. But we do need to hear from you, hear what you're thinking, and make sure that if you have questions, even after tonight, please let us hear from you. We have presented these goals to our community councils. We have presented them to special groups. Last week, I met with our Hispanic families, Hmong families, and I think Pacific Islander families. And so board members are really willing and able to come to you. So if something comes up, questions comes up, please reach out. Language is not a barrier. We have lots of translators, much like what we have on this call tonight. So it is very, very important that we hear from all of our constituents, and that includes our students. So I thank you, Madam Chair, for giving me the opportunity just to make a few comments. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. So just a reminder, our flyer looks a little, and it could just be me, I don't know. But we do have a flyer. If you go out to our website, www.asdk12.org, you can click on the strategic planning feedback, and this flyer will pop up. You can scan that QR code, or you can go right to the website, www.asdk12.org, and it looks like /feedback, and provide your feedback online, because we will be documenting that, as we will be documenting our questions and answers this evening, and putting that where everyone has an opportunity to take a look at those. Okay, Dina Mitchell, I'll just kind of go through the rounds. Do you have anything you want to add?
Hi there. I don't have much to add. I think you've done a great job of covering this. I think all of the other comments also, it's nice to be close to the end for adding comments. I would say thank you to all of the people who have provided input, because this is a very important process, and it's an important outcome that is going to guide the district through 2026. And I'd like to reiterate what Board Member Bellamy said about, also wanting to connect with students on this. So hopefully we'll be able to communicate with certainly the student leaders and others about the new goals and why they're important, and why we think focusing on this is really going to help move the district forward throughout the next 5-ish years. So thank you so much.
Okay. Miss Hilde, do you have any comments?
Oh, thank you. I just want to thank you for leading this and for the people participating. I get very excited about these goals. It's a reflection of what our community wants to see happening in our schools. It's exactly how this should work, right? The people who support education get a say in what happens. We heard people speak passionately throughout this whole process on what they want to see happening for kids. They want to see them succeeding academically. They want to see them succeeding in life. I know particularly like the financial literacy and CTE components for the high schoolers is something people get very excited about, because we know that translates into high graduation rates and, being able to fill out job applications and manage your budget. And, maybe you learned really good academic skills in school, but having those more practical skills to have some confidence as you go out into the world. That's what we hear from young people, that they really wanted some more support in. So I'm very excited for them to be able to launch out into their adulthood, feeling more confident and have the skills necessary to succeed.
Thank you. Mr. Donnelly, are you online? I didn't see him. And Mr. Holloman, are you online? I want to give everybody an opportunity to comment. Okay. Well, where we are in this timeline is once we receive all the feedback, well, not once, but we do have a cutoff of the 15th. The board will be voting on these goals and guardrails, and there could be more discussion, but I think we're pretty much ready to move forward. We do want to be cognizant of the community feedback that we received. Once that they are passed through a vote, a unanimous or a vote of the majority of the board, then those will go to the superintendent to work with her staff to develop the guardrails, how those guardrails are going to be accomplished while accomplishing the goals that we've set forward. It'll be a strategic plan that they'll bring back to the board to let us know how they're going to be implementing these boards and guardrails and how we'll measure the progress. Because at every board meeting, we have set aside a time that we do goal monitoring. And what that does is tells us where our students are, how we're meeting that, what are the inputs, what are the outputs, what are our kids learning, how are they progressing with what we are trying to accomplish. So that should be rolled out. We are hoping the fall of 2020, and you will see those on our website, in our policy, and that will be our focus for the next 6 years, which is 2026. And let me see, I do see a question.
This is a total referendum. It's a rebuke on Donald Trump, and Woody cannot accept the fact. To him, he's like, it's just not possible. It's not possible that I could lose.
Whoever doesn't have their,
what were they saying?
Could you mute, please? We're getting some.
They don't like your antics. They don't like any of this. What they do.
There we go. Thank you. So we do just have a comment from Gloria Jenkins Davenport, and she just states, I just want to express, I do appreciate Dr. Bishop and the school board on going forward. Our students need to be in school to learn, grow, and socialize. Technology has its challenges. In-person learning has never failed us before, and I do understand the pandemic we are facing, but we need to move forward, period. Thank you, Gloria, for your comment. We appreciate that. I'm not seeing any other hands at the moment. Is there anyone else that has comments? Dr. Bishop, Mark Stock, anyone that would like to add to this town hall?
Member Marcette, this is Margot, can I make a comment?
Sure.
Sure, and I do apologize for my radio being on. I've got two computers stacked up here and one of them has the news on. I apologize for that. Anyway, I just want to, I think the superintendent spoke to this earlier, but under each of our goals will be a set of interim goals. So how are we going to reach the reading, math, and life college readiness, career readiness goals? Because that once that is completed, it will give people a bird's eye view of the work that's going to be done around these goals. And again, it's not about exclusion. It's about being as comprehensive as we possibly can, and how we realizing what our resources are, how we're going to allocate those resources, and making sure that the superintendent has what she needs to be able to reach to work on these goals. Same for our guardrails. There will be interim measures under each one of them. So a lot of the feedback we get may not change a goal, it may not change a guardrail, but it will influence the superintendent as to how she and the staff will design those interim guardrails and those interim goals, so that we are so that our kids are as successful as possible, and we realize the outcomes that we are expecting. So I just kind of wanted to add that. The information we get is not isolated. It is, it just comes in at different levels, different times, and in different ways. And we do our best to try to have it influence those things that we still need to do. And I just wanted to make sure that people understand that. Thank you.
Thank you. And I guess I would say that, you know, I didn't mean to skip over those interim goals, but I wanted to make sure that we had plenty of time for questions. And Katie, I don't know, you might even just pull up those interim goals with the first one, the first goal, where we talk about the percentage of students proficient in reading. And if you look at those, and these are possible interim goals, so they're not, it's pertaining to desired student outputs or student outcomes. And that's what we're going to be looking at, and what Dr. Bishop will be measuring with her group. And it's, so here's an example. The percentage of K1 students or above the reading benchmark on interim assessments, currently FastBridge, as measured by early reading composites, ERC, will increase from in the spring of 2021 to whatever percentage in spring 2022. So that just gives you some idea of what those interim goals could look like for each one of our goals. And of course, I would encourage you to open this webpage and take a look at those. But those are examples. They're possible interim goals. They're not necessarily the ones that you will see at the end, although they'll probably be very similar to this. But until Dr. Bishop comes back with her strategic plan and her finalized interim goals, those will be things that we'll be reviewing later on next year. We're looking at hopefully February, March, somewhere in that time. It really kind of depends on what's going on in the school district. As you know, because of this pandemic, we have really had to stretch things out and do a little bit of prioritizing as far as providing academic education to our students and meals and other things, resources available to them so they can continue their education. But I'm still not seeing any hands. And so I'm going to give everybody one last opportunity to either ask a question, to type something in the Q&A. And Gloria, if you could type your contact information in the Q&A so that someone can reach out to you, that would be very helpful. Thank you. And then I'll give the opportunity if there's anyone else that would like to speak from the district or the board. All right, well, given that, I think, you know, time is valuable. So we will close up a little early. It's 6:40. We are here to answer questions at any time. Our school board website is out there. You can call us individually. There's a number that you can call through the district You can reach out. Many of us have our private emails. Some of us that you can reach out to. I know I've gotten phone calls on questions about our goals and guardrails. And it's still not too late if you'd like us to come out and visit with your group and talk about these and get feedback. We're always open and available to do that. We have 7 board members and somebody will be available and happy to come out. So with that, if there's no other comments, I'll give it a few minutes here. All right. Well, I'm going to wish everyone a good night and thank you for joining us. And
Happy holidays.
Yeah, happy holidays. So thank you again. Thank you to our interpreters. You guys are wonderful. I know it's not an easy job. Hopefully we paced our words a little better for you this evening. And again, thank you. I encourage everyone to tune in to our board meeting, which is December 15th, starts at 6 o'clock. We have a finance committee meeting that starts at 3:30. You're welcome to sign into that and hear what's going on. And I wish you good night, good wishes, and sleep tight.
Yeah.
Thank you.